One thing Link tried to do last year, I can't remember the specific time, but we were trying to get a building, I don't remember where, but we applied for the Pepsi grant. We wanted to get a building, to refurbish it, to turn it into kind of a place for homeless kids to go. But that kind of fell through. We weren't able to get the funds necessary to be able to do that, so that kind of plan just fell through. However, I think Link still has that kind of in the back of our heads, like when the money comes up, we'll do that. So.
I'll comment briefly just from the adult services world. When you talk about building buildings and building programs, you have to think kind of long-term because those things don't happen overnight. We've worked on there are really great supportive housing projects in Rochester. The Francis, Castleview, the Zumbro Valley Homeless Services team. We have another project, Silver Creek Corner, that's going to be open this fall. Those projects took years to develop, and they take years of collaboration. They take stakeholder groups to talk about what is the need and how are we going to deliver the service and who are we going to serve and how are we going to serve them and where is the subsidy, how are we going to pay the rents, and there's a lot of work that has to be done. And so there's the challenge to everybody in this room is it can't be just about this meeting today. If we're going to have something like that, there has to be continued conversation and partnerships and who's going to bring what to the table.
And I might add, I brought a couple of handouts. The Heading Home Minnesota campaign has, on the back page, it has a list of the state resources that are available for serving homeless folks. And the federal government has a plan called Opening Doors to End Homelessness. That's this handout, and that has a list of all the federal resources. And I have highlighted the ones that are specifically for youth. So I don't think I brought enough copies, but my card is there. If anybody's interested in this, let me know, and I'll see that you get it.
Before we wrap it up, I just want to mention before we make sure we don't forget that we wanted everybody to know that April 14th we will be having a fundraiser at the Wicked Moose. It'll be kind of planned to be a kind of a comedy night, silent auction, and also bring in not just monetary things, but household cleaning goods and toiletry supplies and all those kinds of things, trying to raise as much monetary and material donations as we can at that point. I think it's probably going to be like 7 to 10, more than likely that night, but yes.
For what?
I'm due that day, so I probably won't be there. But
oh, come on.
It'll be a good day for everybody. I just wanted to make one comment. A comment was made earlier that no one is born homeless, and I strongly disagree with that, especially as we address homeless youth today. Our children inherit situations that they're in, and the youth that have shared their story today are very brave and courageous and have overcome some really awesome and incredible things, more so than I personally have ever had to endure in my life. And I really think it's important that we do not blame the children, we do not blame the kids, we do not blame the youth. They have inherited some very terrible situations, and our leaders today have shown us that through perseverance and persistence and through relationships with people that care about them, that they can overcome that. And so there's a lot that we've talked about today about services and about families and all of that, but think about the children. They have inherited these situations, and when we work to tackle this task and to end homelessness, especially for youth, we need to remember that they have not asked to be where they're at in these situations.
But also, I don't think we should blame the parents either. I
you.
don't think there should be any blame. I mean, pointing fingers get you nowhere. And usually, I mean, we inherit, if it's an inherited thing, like, yeah, I came from a very bad situation in my family. I don't know my parents' history, but they probably suffered a similar situation. And it's like a generational thing. And it's just, it has to come to the point where the youth gets enough opportunity and enough options and resources to where they can turn around, look at their family history and say, I'm going to stop this train. I'm going to stop this for generations to come. And you shouldn't be pointing fingers. I mean, yes, things happen, but there's no need to blame people, because that breaks apart relationships, that breaks apart the community. So.
One final. Yeah.
Oh.
one final thing that I would add, and I think everybody may agree, sometimes you'll see, we had an editorial in the paper recently, and seeing some of the comments that came in afterwards from people in society say things like, it's just going to be another handout. Why are we going to throw out a bunch more handouts? And we should make them earn something for this. We should make them earn it. And I pose this to Bev and groups like hers. I wished I'd had that person face to face, and I could have said, let's go talk to Bev, and let's talk about what these kids do have to do to earn what they're getting. It's not just a handout. And that's part of this awareness situation, that we need to try and make people more aware of what they do have to do. It's not just, here's your money and walk away with it. So I think there's a lot of ignorance out there as far as that goes too.
Can I just tell you one story? It'll only take a minute. It's about a young man whose memory I have sort of taken it upon myself to not let die. In 2004, he was nominated for and won one of the 10 Outstanding Youth Awards given to young people in Olmsted County that year by the Youth Commission. And he came to the county board meeting with his nominator and received the award. His name was Alir Kang. He was active in Y Mentors at the Y. He was a member of the LINK program. He was a conflict manager at Mayo High School. He was a member of the Young Sudanese Association. And he lobbied at the state capitol on behalf of homeless people. What really set him apart were the obstacles that Alir overcome, and there are lots of stories like this in our community today. He fled his country and lived in a refugee camp in Ethiopia where he battled illness and nearly died from lack of food, water, and medical care. Then he went to Kenya where he was imprisoned. He was finally able to come to America, but he was homeless for most of the time. He lived in Rochester, doing what a lot of other young people did then and are doing now, moving from apartment to apartment, from couch to couch. Through all of his hardship, Alir maintained the most wonderful attitude and had the most beautiful smile. When he was asked about the adversity he faced, he said, "Whatever happens will happen. It is in God's hands, not mine." Alir worked at Big Lots, and even though his schedule didn't allow for a lot of work hours, he still sent money home to his family in Sudan. His plan was to join the army, hopefully get some medical training so that he could go back to Sudan and help his people. He wanted peace and happiness in the world. I can still hear him saying that in front of the county board the day he received his awards. He wanted to touch other people, and he never asked for a thing in return. Alir was 21 years old. Well, we're not sure if he was 21 or 23. That is the case between 21 and 23 years old. He died of hypothermia on January 23rd, 2005, behind Brothers Restaurant in Rochester. Like many young people, he occasionally used alcohol. He may have had too much to drink that night. Many of us have been in that same situation. Like a lot of kids who are homeless, he had no transportation, so he walked from apartment to apartment, from friend's house to friend's house. We think he was likely trying to walk from an apartment in one part of town to another friend's apartment in another part of town. We surmise that he grew tired, laid down to rest, and fell asleep in the snow. The temperature was below 0 that night. I will never forget this very brave young man. And I see his face on all the faces of the kids in this community who have no place to call home.